process. But if you are planning to use someone, make sure it is an authorized representative if they're an immigration practitioner. And the College of Immigration and Citizenship Consultants does have a list. We need to be on that list for you to be able to use our services. And of course, the Law Society will have their list of of lawyers that are immigration lawyers. We do have a high degree of success here at Live by Design, and want to continue that success by helping our clients make sure that they get what they're looking for. And most importantly, we do advocate for our clients and help in the best way possible. We do work hard at making sure we understand exactly what you're looking for. As our name implies, we want to design what you need for success. So we really do need to have a really in-depth conversation with our clients to be able to give any kind of useful advice and coaching and mentoring through this process. So sharing everything you want to achieve helps us build that plan for you to do that successfully. So as we look at, come on, why would you even consider hiring internationally? And there are several reasons, but a few that I've listed here on this slide. Chronically low unemployment rate in February, this past February, just last month. The unemployment rate unadjusted for seasonality in the Stratford Bruce Peninsula economic region was 4.6%. Provincially, it was 5%. And that is low. And we have been in this region down to 2.6% within the last 12 months. That is a significantly low unemployment rate. And what that means to you is you don't have the bodies of people to find to fill those jobs. And those who might be looking for jobs, that you know, the small number that are looking for jobs, they may need some workplace interventions and some employment workforce development interventions to help them be ready to take on the roles that you have. We do have a very high, a vacancy rate in our region in Q4 of 2022. It was 4.9% for the Stratford Bruce Peninsula region. And that in that list, you know, you'll find the actual numbers. And then of course, in the province, it's 4.7%. So here we are higher than the province in that vacancy rate. And then another thing really challenging you as employers, us as employers, is the shrinking labor force. In February, it was reported on the unemployment report by the 4-County Labor Market Planning Board that there was a decrease of the labor force by 1,600, and that would be compared to January of 2023. So you know that there are things happening, and you've been experiencing this. So this isn't news to you. It just kind of gives us some perspective and kind of look at that in that manner. And oh, my mouse, come on, you. So this is something I wanted to start with, and this is really important for employers to know. On November 16th of 2022, the government launched the revamped NOC codes. And it's really important for you to understand how that fits into some of the foreign national hiring that you might be interested in. So this is the new system in which they would determine, the government, IRCC, Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, or ESDC, Employment and Social Development Canada, how they're going to make decisions around labor market impact assessments and immigration documents that they would, immigration decisions they're going to make. So this tier system stands for training, education, experience, and responsibilities, and it does broaden the perspective of people who are looking to come to Canada or looking to engage in the Canadian labor market. Tiers 0 to 3 qualify for some sort of permanent residency program, and I say some sort depending on people's points, on their you know, their education, their experiences, and many other things, their language. There are a few things that they test against to ensure that individuals who are coming through the economic stream would qualify and fit into the labor market and make themselves sustainable through employment. So that would be tiers 0 to 3. And just briefly, how can employers be engaged in that piece? You can support someone's permanent residency application by offering them a job. With that job offer, they are able to receive points as part of their permanent residency application. And we'll talk more about how that applies in a more immediate setting if you're supporting someone for permanent residency. The other two, tiers 4 and 5, do not fit into any permanent residency application programs. And thereby it offers some opportunity for people to work in those occupations that are deemed tier 4 or 5 through the temporary worker program. And all of these tiers can be temporary foreign workers, but there are some significant differences if someone has a goal to become permanent resident. And so what we do understand from some of the research that we've done and has been done in the region, in this economic region, through 4 County Labor Market Planning Board and other organizations that do workforce development, the county and the economic development services. When we look at these services, what we're seeing is that the bulk of vacancies really sit within the jobs that fit with tiers 4 and 5. And so you're going to be looking at, how do I engage people, temporary foreign workers, if I can't find someone locally? And so let's get into that topic. If I am going too fast, you will get the recording. I am trying to fit into our time frame what we've got to time frame to discuss, and also to give us time to have some periods where we can answer some questions at the end. So when you start to think as an employer about how you're going to hire temporary foreign workers, or you're going to get engaged in that process, the first thing that will come to mind, particularly for careers or jobs that fit into that previous discussion we had about tiers 4 and 5, the labor market impact assessment is going to be the tool that you will engage to be able to hire temporary foreign workers. And what does that mean to you? The application needs to be submitted to Employment and Social Development Canada. They are the ones that make the decision on whether your application meets the standard by which they test against these needs. And so first of all, the first thing that you as an employer need to determine, well, first of all, we determine the job that you're going to hire for. And based on the job, and you'll see the next slide, we're kind of going to go into a little bit of a use case scenario so you can really visualize what we're talking about. So we determine what the position is that we need to fill, and then we look at the wages for that position. And based on a certain criteria that the ESDC has set, then we determine if it's going to be a high wage application, a low wage application, and of course the other two, or if you're an ag, whether it's an ag stream application or an ag worker. The seasonal ag worker program also fits in under the LMIA, but that is the temporary short-term hiring of ag workers. So that will fit into our workers that are on a 9-month maybe contract with an employer. And so those are very specific. We've seen lots of these employees work at the apple orchards or some of the farms that are around our community. And those are those, months when our farmers really need that help to plant and harvest and so on. So once we've determined the stream, then we have to collect the evidence that demonstrates the need to hire that foreign national. And I say temporarily because these programs look at temporary fixes. There could be some long-term planning around permanent residency, but really these programs are for temporary hires. And we'll go more into the length and so on in a bit. And what does it do for you? The receiving of an LMIA confirms that you need to hire a temporary foreign worker, which means you couldn't find a Canadian or permanent resident available to do that job. And this allows you to hire those foreign nationals for the duration of the identified period on your LMIA. The labor market impact assessment is very specific to what it is you need to do and how you need to do that. So everything is laid out as part of our application to this program. So here's our use case. So employer X is searching for a mold maker. So I discussed the tier system a couple slides ago, and this is how you will read the new NOC. So the new NOC, you may have been familiar, very, very familiar. We were all familiar with the 4-digit NOC, and now that has changed to a 5-digit NOC, and they mean different things. And some of your previous occupations or the occupations you hold now, the number may have remained the same, but some of them, the number may have completely changed. So make sure you're looking at the correct NOC code. And when you're look at certain things within that NOC code to be able to claim that that higher. So one of the things so I'm going to click to this so you can see, and let's hope this actually works the way that it should. Are you seeing my PDF of NOC 72101? Can you let me know if you're seeing that? Yes?
I don't see it, Gemma.
Oh, okay.
Do you have to share screen?
You are sharing. I'm sorry, am I not sharing my screen?
No.
Thank you, Amanda.
That's okay.
I thought I was. Okay, let's do, which screen do I want to share then? Window. I want to share this window. I want to share this window that I've been talking with you.
That's okay. Everyone will get these slides after.
I'm going to share that. So you see that use case?
We see it.
Okay, so I'm going to do something here. Finally, I wish somebody would have said, do you have slides? I've just been a talking head. Let me see. If I put this over here, Amanda, can you see that? It says NOC and 72101.
Yes.
Yes.
I see your slide. Yep.
It's on top of the slide, right?
I see use case at the top.
Okay. Okay, let me do something else. I just wanted to kind of people get a visual of what I'm showing here. So I'm going to share. I'll stop sharing for a second. And I want to share this other screen. I'm gonna do this. Share, screen window or tab. Because I do want people to kind of get a look at what I'm talking about here. And I want to share this one, yes. Okay, so now you should be able to see the NOC 72101.
Yes.
Awesome. Sorry about that. Now that I figured that out, we're going to go ahead and make this work. So when you look at your NOC code, here's that new NOC code. The second digit number, so that 2 there represents the tier. So when you're looking at your NOC code and you look at those 5-digit numbers, the second digit is the digit that represents your NOC, the tier that you're going to be dealing with. So if it's 0, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's what you're going to be looking at. And the first one represents the categories of employment, and that can that's explained in some of these. So what I wanted to show you here with this particular listing is, so you look at all of these things and you look at the examples, other names that you could use and so on, and you have the main duties of that particular NOC code. And these, so when you're building your job posting, and we're going to get into that about recruitment, these are the types of things you want to use. You don't have to, and I would not actually recommend a direct copy and paste, but you're going to want to address the things that the government is looking for in a person, or the skills, the main duties that someone is going to be doing for that particular job. If they don't match, you're not probably going to get your application approved. So we look at these things, we choose the ones that fit within the things that happen in our workplace, because they must fit, that person must be doing those duties, and then we go ahead and build our job description based on these tools. And that's why I want to point that out to you. When I'm working with my clients, I make sure that we start from here, because when I post that with you, we want to make sure that we're matching what the government is looking for. What I look for is making the job easier for them to say yes. So that's really what I'm looking for there. So I'm going to stop sharing again and go back to my presentation. I need to, here we go. Awesome. So there's where, so the next step we look at is the wages. And this is how we determine, and this would be the streams that employers, I believe employers will be looking at most often, high or low wage stream. And of course, our agricultural employers will be looking at ag. But for the most part, employers in manufacturing, in other industries, construction, in industries that fit within hospitality and tourism businesses, you'll more than likely be looking at high and low wage. And I'm going to look at the wages here because I do want to show you this as well. And I do need to share my screen again because that's a big piece that I want you to look at. And I will share again. Sorry for the back and forth, but this is really, really important for us to look at. And minimized. Yeah. You know, when you do something that just doesn't want to do what you want it to do. I'm not sure why. But anyway, so when I look at the wages, I don't know, this is not seeming to want to share with you. When I look at the wages, I look at the wages on the system. And for employers, when you are hiring an international employee or hiring a foreign national, you must pay, one of the rules around the LMIA, Labor Market Impact Assessment, is you must pay the median wage for your economic region, area. And if you don't have one for that area, you're going to use Ontario. If there's none for Ontario, you're going to use Canada. So the median wage for a mold maker, 72101, is $27.39 in the Stratford Bruce Peninsula region. In Ontario, it's $27.39, and in Canada, it's $28. So looking at the slide that we have posted, we are going to, I'm going to share again. I'm going to go back to that. So when you look at this slide, Ontario on the ministry's, on Service Canada's site, which is the ESDC site, they highlight what the median wage is that their wages that they're looking at. So this Ontario 2606 is what ESDC uses to figure out if you're applying for a high wage or a low wage. And if you're paying the individual less than 2606, then it's a low wage application you're going to do. And there are very specific qualifications and requirements for that. And then if you are paying anything 2606 or above, then it's a high wage position. And so based on what we were just looking for our use case, the NOC code 72101, we will be paying that person a minimum of $27.39. So we are now looking at a high wage application that we're going to be doing. Based on that, these are the requirements for a posting. You must post the job on the job bank for a minimum of 4 consecutive weeks. And we always recommend, and so does the ESDC, that you keep that job posting running. So you keep renewing that job posting until a decision is made on your labor market impact assessment application. You must recruit from 3 different sources, or you can do 3 different recruiting activities. One being, and the main one they look at, being the job bank. Then you can use something like Career Owl or Indeed, or you can use a specialty group or association. So if you are hiring, and usually this applies to a high wage position. High wage positions, they're higher skilled employees and a professional. So they may be looking at a professional body where people who are trained come out of that area, they come out with that training, and you can kind of recruit there as well. So 3 different recruiting activities that run for a minimum of 4 weeks. Only one need to continue being open for recruitment for the full time of our application, and that is the job bank posting. I would recommend. Many of my clients actually just continue with Indeed and all the other things. With a high wage position, you must do what's called a job match, which is 30 days after you've posted. So at the end of that 4 consecutive weeks, anyone who is 4-star or have been rated 4-star or above, those individuals must be invited to apply for your position. And I'm really spending a lot of time on this particular piece because most often this is where employers would receive a negative result. When we don't do enough advertising, we don't do it the right way, we do fall into that issue of you're not, and immediately you will receive a negative result. And what happens is that compliance fee that you pay, then you lose that. So that's why I'm spending a lot of time on this particular topic. So after those 30 days, or, we run a report, we must capture that information as part of our application. We capture the fact that we've invited everyone who has a 4-star or above to apply for the position. We keep a chart on not the individual's name, but let's say candidate 1 was interviewed, the qualifications didn't match what we were looking for, the experience didn't match what we were looking for, we hired the individual and it didn't work out. Any of those reasons why you were not able to fill the 1 or 10 or however many positions you're advertising for this particular NOC code. And so that's the biggest piece of what you're going to do with proving that you cannot find a Canadian citizen or permanent resident to fill the position or positions that are vacant in your business. And so once this is done, it's a little bit different for low wage. Low wage, it's a 3-star that we have to apply, invite for that position. All of those things still need to happen, but it's just a different rating level and those types of things that we are looking at. Business legitimacy, the things that you offer as part of your application and as part of this job posting must be within that employment, the employment agreement that you're going to be giving. You have to show that you are able to cover your payroll expenses as part of your business legitimacy. So there are a number of documents that the government, ESDC, has suggested and require. My approach to labor market impact assessments is to give the government more than they need, because we want them to make a yes decision and we want them to make it as quickly as possible. So cover the things that they are looking for so we can get moving and very quickly be able to get to a yes. The transition plan is very important in high wage. It's not a requirement in low wage. And the reason being, low wage positions, usually your labor market impact assessment is for 1 year, so you can hire somebody for 12 months. The high wage, you can hire someone for up to 3 years. And usually my employers will go for that high wage for the maximum period of time. The transition plan focuses on what you're going to do as a business to transition the knowledge, the expertise that this temporary foreign worker is bringing to your workplace into your normal operating business. So we will discuss things like lunch and learns, coaching, mentoring. So that knowledge transfer, what's our transition plan that helps us to do that knowledge transfer to that individual, to the business, so the individual is not the key component of what we're doing here. And that is a requirement for a high wage position. Employers' responsibilities, very, very important for us to understand what the responsibility is as an employer going into this particular arrangement and agreement with the government. The conditions are that once you have received a positive labor market impact assessment, positive or neutral labor market impact assessment, you must meet the conditions that are listed on the work permit, including the job location, the length of time they come to Canada and they can work in Canada. One of the things I would like to mention as part of that job posting, the job bank posting, your physical location, and here we see it clearly in our responsibilities, must be posted on that job description, on that job posting. Normally what you will see is a postal code, and that's sufficient for any other kind of posting that we might be doing. But when you are in mind, when you're planning for the outcome to be a labor market impact assessment, we have to put the physical address. So the full address of where that location for that job is going to be must be visible on your job posting. All of the things that you're going to offer, all of the compensations, all of the bonuses, the benefits, anything that you offer must be listed in that posting, including relocation fees for relocation costs for low wage applications. So a low wage applicant, if you're doing a low wage application, then you must in your job posting say relocation fee costs covered. And what that means and why we need to post that is it's a requirement for you to cover it with a labor market impact assessment for a foreign national. And what the government is saying is if you're going to have to cover that for a foreign national, then you should be considering that for a Canadian citizen or permanent resident. More people might be interested in your job. So for instance, if somebody is living right now in Edmonton, and they're thinking of hey, I don't mind, I can relocate to Ontario and take this job. This is a low wage position, anything under 2606. Then the employer needs to put that as part of their job posting, so that individual in Edmonton can say, yep, I will apply for that position, I qualify, and then the employer can make the decision. So those are the types of things that we are very painstaking about when we do our work with employers, because we want to make sure we meet all of those criteria. Meet the details of offering of employment, including all of those duties, the pay, the work conditions, anything, of course, that was posted and in that employment offer has to be upheld. This one is very important, the setup of medical insurance and workers' compensation benefits. And the first part of that, the medical insurance, is required for the period of time that medical benefits are not offered to that foreign national. So in Ontario, it is different in other provinces, but in Ontario, when you come to Canada as a temporary foreign worker or a permanent resident, the first 3 months you don't have OHIP. You don't have access to OHIP until after 3 months. So that 3-month period that the person is here, the employer needs to provide that medical insurance. So if anything happens, they can be looked after. And that then the 3rd month, or when OHIP kicks in, then that's no longer a requirement. The employer has to be in business for the validity of the work permit. So if the work permit is going to be 12 months and you are a seasonal business, that's not going to work. So the employer needs to be sure that whatever time period that the work permit is going to be for, that they continue and will be doing business actively. Of course, we have to cover, and this is nothing different from any other person you might hire within Canada, the employment and recruiting laws that apply. Workplace is free of abuse and cooperate with, and so this is a big one, the cooperation with an inspection of employer compliance. When you receive a positive or neutral labor market impact assessment, you do pay $1,000 per position for this application, and that is a compliance fee. And the government doesn't do an inspection for every business that has a labor market impact assessment active, but they do choose certain employers. They just randomly choose an employer to do an inspection. And that's where you want to make sure that and the usual things. This is comparable to the Ministry of Labor coming in and making sure all of your documents are correct and all of the training has happened and all of the things that are supposed to be happening around this hire of temporary foreign worker is happening and noted and documented. And those documents are to be kept for a minimum of 6 years when you're going through this process. So I wanted to highlight for you, as we talk about labor market impact assessments being maybe the most active process for employers in our region, these are the different types of applications that happen. We really focused on high wage I'm talking about high wage, low wage, because I think that's where most of our positions may be available in our region. But there, as you can see, there are other streams as well. So for a high wage, it's taking 33 business days for processing, and the low wage is taking around 36 business days for processing. And that processing time is the time at which we submit. So we've submitted the application, we've paid the fee, submitted the application, they've asked us to submit the fees, and the time that the fees have been received by Service Canada, then the processing time starts. And I have had a high wage that was a little bit less than that, but this is the average time that we're looking at. And so this does not take into consideration the time, the buildup before that, which is the advertising. And what I do is I create a 8 to 10 page labor market document with tons of research information that tells the the person looking at our application, these are the challenges and these are the reasons, and this is what's happening in our region, and this is the forecast for our region. And so it's an 8 to 10 page document that I develop as part of my service to my employers to make sure that we cover everything possible under the sun that they may be looking for, because they're not necessarily looking for, they're not necessarily always looking to say yes right away, but we have to give them every reason to say yes. And so that's why I wanted to just kind of highlight the process. So it could take, when we start the process with me, if you're working with me, it has taken about 3 months, if 3 months to a decision, if we're able to get all of our documents and all of our pieces pulled together. And I know you're busy people, so it may be a little bit longer, but certainly once we have everything pulled together, we can get that probably within a 3 to 4 month period. Amanda, I think I saw, I'm not sure if I have access to the questions, but I did see a question pop up. But if if you want to stop and do that, or I can do it after, but I will continue and you can let me know.
It's up to you, whatever works best for you. If you save questions for the end.
Okay, let's do that, because I do want to get through some of this stuff, and then we can certainly do that. So labor market impact assessment, there are exemptions, like certain positions and certain roles may be exempt from a labor market impact assessment. And we don't have enough time to go through the details around the exemptions, because there are many, and these are very individual. They're very specific to international mobility programs that we need to look at the free trade agreements and the positions that are allowed within those free trade agreements, and the level at which you're hiring that person. They're usually for more professional positions that the international mobility programs will apply to. So those things we can look at on a more niche basis, but that is definitely something that employers can engage in. And the labor market impact assessment exemption, actually there are exemption codes. So we will do all of the research, look at what we're looking at, and figure out, oh yes, this qualifies for an exemption. And then we will use that exemption code depending on the program we're doing, provincial nominee programs and so on. If you're a registered employer, then those provincial nominee programs provide you with an exemption code. And when you're hiring, then you will provide that exemption code to the person the international hire that you're making. In our region, how else can you interact with foreign nationals? And so individuals with open work permits are a great way for employers to hire individuals who are already in Canada, already have work permits, and can work for any employer that has a position that they can qualify for, and that the employer will hire them. Labor market impact assessment applications and hires are called a closed work permit. So that person can only work for that employer named on that particular work permit. And individuals with open work permits can be individuals who have accompanied their spouse or partner on a study permit, on a closed work permit. And so there are other ways that people come into Canada. Some people come in as a family. And so you will find one person may have a study permit, the other has an open work permit. One person has a work permit, the other one has a closed work permit, the other one has an open work permit. So you can attach yourselves to these open work permit holders, because you don't have to do anything more than hire them for a position that you have open that you have not been able to fill. International students are also another source of workforce, and they have an open work permit, but they are limited to 20 hours a week of work. And that is because they're here, their goal, their focus is for study, finishing their program with the length of the program, whether it's a year, 2 years, 4 years, that's what they're here for. So it's limited to 20 hours a week. We have been in such short supply of labor force that Minister Sean Fraser, he had a temporary measure announced last November 16th. Also, this became policy that students can now temporarily work any number of hours over their 20 hours a week until December 31st of this year. So if you do have students, access to students while they're in school, the normal school time frame, they can go ahead and work more than 20 hours as long as they can continue to study full time and complete their program requirements. And then, of course, another announcement that has been made, which I think is very, it's a good thing, but you will require some sort of permission to hire this particular group, or they'll be able to apply. You will need an LMIA or LMIA exempt position to be able to do this. But visitors to Canada can now apply for a work permit while they are still in Canada. And the rule normally is if you are in Canada and you would like to switch from a visitor to a work permit, you need to leave Canada to be able to submit that work permit application. So for instance, umpteen years ago when I became a nanny, I came as a visitor first, and then I applied for a job as a nanny, and to submit that application, I had to cross the border at Buffalo. I went to visit an aunt in the States for a week, and then I submitted my application, and then I came back to Canada as a visitor. So if people that you might be meeting that's visiting and want to and can do this, they will need a way. They don't need to do that anymore. Normally you'd need to have some sort of, I had a US visa, so I could cross the border. Some countries may require that, so thinking about that. So that removes all of those challenges for people. If someone comes to Canada, they may be able to, if you've got all the right documents, you can hire them as a temporary foreign worker. This measure was in place until February 28th this year, and on March 1st, either March 1st or February 28th, Minister Sean Fraser extended that program till 2025. So now you can continue to do that. So this is a good way. And one of the things about these particular that particular one is, as a visitor, once you have a work permit and you're working you're working in Canada legally, you can accrue time that will go towards a permanent residency application. So this is very good. It's very good for people who are looking to come to Canada and stay in Canada permanently. Visitors, normally when you come to Canada, the day you enter Canada, you have to leave in 6 months. And so you have a 6-month period as a visitor to be able to look for work and connect with employers. So that's a really great measure, another one to kind of address those workforce challenges that employers are seeing. So other programs that we are looking at is the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program. And this program has just had recently some announcements, and I'll address that in the next couple of slides. So the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program is a less onerous activity for employers. And I will say that referring back to those open work permit holders. So if somebody has an open work permit, then actually there's one I missed and I'll get back to that. So if somebody has an open work permit, let's say, or they are working for you on a labor market impact assessment approval, in Ontario, somebody in a NOP 4 or 5 position working in a job for 9 months can apply through the in-demand stream, skill stream. And so once they've been working 9 months, they will apply to this nominee program, as long as they have all of the points they need, because there are points for language, for the job experience, for the level at which they're working, and all of those things, several criteria that they will be looking at. Once they qualify, they can put in their application. At the point at which your employee is putting in an application for the in-demand skills stream, 9 months, 9 months of work, they can go ahead and do that in Ontario. All you need to do is fill out a form, and I wouldn't say all you need to do, but we do need to get a form filled out by the employer that says, Gemma's been working for us within this NOC code, completing these duties at this rate of pay for this time, and we're offering her a full-time position, 30 hours or more, in that exact position moving forward. And that person now, Gemma, can then go ahead and take that document from you as an employer and then submit that. Once my name is drawn, let's say I'm drawn and I've now been offered an invitation to apply for permanent residency, then you as the employer then has a requirement to give more details. And we talked about that before: business legitimacy, payroll, making sure that you can cover all of those things. You have to be in business for a minimum of 3 years. And so those are the things that then, once that position is drawn, then you're able to submit those and support that person in their permanent residency application. There is no financial commitment to you except the fact that you are hiring this individual and you're giving them a job that they can stay at with your organization, and that is the way that they will actually be considered for that in-demand stream. International students and foreign worker streams, those are relegated and specifically for tiers 0 to 3. So those are those highly skilled professionals. And the foreign worker is that tiers. The international student is also the same tiers, 0 to 3, but the international student would have completed their studies here in Canada. They would have been granted, and this is the thing I wanted to talk about, the postgraduate work permit. And a postgraduate work permit is an open work permit that allows the international student then to work for any employer, hopefully in their field of study, and stay in Canada. Once they've completed a certain number of months of work, 12 months, they can then look to apply for permanent residency, either through the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program or through the Canadian Experience Class Program that the federal government then administers. So that international student is also a way to be able to, once they're finished their program, depending on the length of their program, they get an open work permit, and that removes the LMIA requirement for an employer to be able to hire those individuals. And I know that we've been hearing lots of reports from our colleges and the numbers of international students that's growing. And so we do have some leverage there to be able to tap into as employers in our region. The Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program has 9 streams, and these are the 9 streams here listed. And I just wanted to, because I talked about the in-demand international and foreign worker, I wanted to show you the processing times. And so these are the processing times, and this is the processing time starts when the person has been invited to apply for permanent residency. So this is not including the time that they're waiting for their number to be drawn. So when you apply for a nomination, you are in a pool, the government draws from that pool, and then they offer you an invitation to apply. That happens both in the federal program as well as the Immigrant Nominee Program here in Ontario. So this is the processing time of becoming that permanent resident. The time frame, however, that it takes to be pulled can be long. The last draw that we had for the in-demand stream for the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program was in November of 2022. So there have been several months, and we've had several draws since, but it's not always drawn upon. And I think you may have recently read that, in the numbers where there were draws and types of individuals, the qualifications of the individuals that were invited through the Ontario Nominee Program. Previously, the number was 9,000. So every year, the federal government says through the nominee program that we want to have, let's say we're going to have 500,000 immigrants. We're going to allow 500,000 foreigners to apply for landed permanent residency, and they are, people then start to apply, they're in the pool. Then they will look at each province that has a nominee program, and they're going to give certain numbers, a certain number of that larger number, um, what they're going to say to that province you can allow in through your provincial program. And so recently with the new announcements, previously it was 9,000 for Ontario. So these are the new intake levels that the federal government has announced for Ontario: 16,500 in 2023, 17,000 2024, and 18,000 in 2025. And so it's going to be doubled by 2025 for what we have right now. The only other thing I will say, though, is that when we also read that report, and I don't have a link here for it, but if you search the Ontario Immigrant Nominee Program, it was just a couple of days ago, I believe, maybe Tuesday, was when that was announced. We also talked about who we let in and how we do that. And the one thing I will say is that the in-demand skill stream, it would have the fewest numbers of individuals that we have as intakes. And the challenge for you as employers is that tends to be where the most vacancies, at least in the research that has been done in the past, the vacancies that exist are really within those tier 4 and 5 positions. So we really want to, if you have an opportunity to advocate to the government, there are times when they have these open policies that you could have input in. You certainly want to be able to say to the government how this might be challenging for you as an employer and where you would like to see some improvements. And I think you should take that opportunity to be able to say where you'd like to see some of those improvements. And the last slide here, and I will send the slide deck out to Amanda so she can share it to you as attendees. I've given you a link here to the Ontario nominee program page. The information is there, and the forms that you might need. There are listings there that you would be able to learn more about that program and any updates. They do have some program updates for 2023, so that's listed on the site. The Labor Market Impact Assessment site, that is the site you would go to, and you will see all of their programs on that main page. And then as you determine where you're going to fit into any of those programs, or which of those programs you're going to fit into, then you can just link through and be able to find the information you need there. And then the job bank one, I'm sure you have all used, or your recruiters in your businesses and HR have used the job bank for postings. I hope that with what you've heard today, that you take a different look at it. And they are using this job bank as a way of, this is your first door into the approval of a labor market impact assessment. So you do want to use this particular site. The other advantage to this is when individuals internationally apply for permanent an express entry application, they are given a code and they're given a link to this job bank as a job search tool. So when you post your position on Job Bank, they're also making sure that the individuals that are looking to come to Canada are also engaging with those positions that are available. One of the things that I can mention now is that labor market impact assessments can be used in two ways. One way is to fill a temporary need, and we talked a lot about that. But the second way is also to support one of these permanent resident applications. And when you support someone for permanent residency, the $1,000 fee is waived. However, that's for if you're going to wait for that person to get their permanent residency and then they have a job to come work for you. If you have a more immediate need, however, my recommendation would be to pay the $1,000 fee, support their PR application, their permanent residency application, but hire them immediately if you've got a more immediate need. And that's what you want to look at. Those are the things that we will talk about if you're using us as consultants. We talk about what exactly do you need and which is the best approach for you. And that's what we try to determine before we even start that process. Part of the process with us as well is that the job bank, we are connected. I am an administrator on your job bank, and we're also connected on the labor market impact assessment portal because everything is now done online and you have to approve anything that I am going to be submitting on your behalf. So, all of it is very is very structured and making sure that all of the T's are crossed, all of the I's are dotted, and then we're able to submit a hopefully successful application. I think it talked about, yes, I'm pretty sure I covered everything on our list there, Amanda. So if I missed anything that was really glaring and important, please let me know. I do want to say thank you very much for your time, and we certainly can. Come on, why are you not? There we go. Thank you very much. And you can scan the QR code on the screen that allows me to be added to your contact list with all of my details. So if you ever need to just reach out, and you know where to find me. So Amanda, I'm going to have hand the time back over to you, and we can then start to maybe deal with some of the questions you may have had previously, or questions that came up in our chat today, or if anybody still has any questions that's online.
Thank you, Gemma. I thought that was great. I think these slides too will be a great resource for people to come back to for some of those these tips and the links. Absolutely, that was really fantastic. Thank you so much. And again, to everybody, I'm sure you'll, if you are in this process or you're looking to begin this process, I'm sure meeting with Gemma one-on-one would probably be helpful. So I will make sure to include her contact information if you don't have it in that follow-up email along with the slides and a link to the recording. And you're, of course, welcome to reach out to me as well as kind of an in-between. That's fine too. All that information will be in the follow-up email. But I think, yeah, if we'd like to take a few more minutes and go to the chat and answer some of these questions, that would be great.
Awesome. So I see Teresa's question, and Teresa, that's a hard one for me to. So the only way that you can hire immigrants from an agency is if they have an open work permit. So they have an open work permit, which means they can work for any employer. So their employer will be the agency. And the agency then will do the payroll. And I don't know that you need to ask any questions, because it does come down to the agency that's hiring them to make sure that they have their paperwork in place. If you are concerned about exploitation, though, and I think that is a real concern, as we have heard on the news many, many times, that we have exploitation of foreign nationals. So we want to make sure as an employer that we're doing our due diligence, and we want to make sure that we're covering those things. So you may want to ask questions about work permits and those types of things if you are concerned about that. And I really think it is a good moral perspective to take. You want to make sure that you're hiring people who are supposed to be working in Canada, that are being paid legitimately and working in the right way. So I think, Teresa, if I were to give you a recommendation, that would be it about hiring through an agency. Anyone else hiring, if an agency actually won't get a labor market impact assessment because they don't qualify for the business, like the person has to be doing that business physically, they have to come to your location and do it, and they are on your payroll. So agencies probably won't qualify for the labor market impact assessments. That was the only question I noticed. So you're welcome, Teresa.
I see some dots bubbling away. So maybe we have another question coming in.
And I think okay. This is a question more about work permit. Okay, once you have the LMIA and you are waiting for the foreign worker over, however, after 4 to 6 months of waiting, yes, the workers get declined. Is there a way to overturn that decision? No. I would say there would be a reason why they were declined. And it is very important that they share the reason why. They can reapply if you want to hire that particular person. They can reapply, but you must, my recommendation is you must address the decision that declined their work permit. It could be something bigger. There could be inadmissibility challenges and all of those things. Okay, Selena, I think Amanda, Selena is asking that if she could turn on her mic. So I'll just finish up my thought while Selena gets her answer from you, Amanda. But it's really important when somebody is declined their application for immigration purposes, that the first thing that you want to know, if you're working with if they're doing it on their own or they're working with a consultant or a lawyer, you want to see the notes from their file. And the notes, the requirement for every officer is to make notes about everything that they have decided on that particular case. So the officer will have notes. It will indicate to us why that person was denied. And then if you're going to reapply, if they are open for reapplication, then we can certainly do a new application addressing those concerns the officer had.
I'm trying to unmute her.
Hi,
Oh, there you go.
can you hear me? No, sorry, it was me that asked the question, and there's a reason why I asked that question, okay? Because to be honest with you, I have done this myself for the past year and a half. And you know, each time when you bring a foreign worker over, the wait is around 4 to 6 months, right? And I've been very blessed because I was lucky enough to successfully brought over five workers, right? Because I have like a few different companies. However, the issue is still um, the challenge is just because it worked for one, like the same application, like because the staff that I work with, I work very closely with them. Like even overseas, I work very closely with them, and it's the same. Like the way they submit it, it's the same. And for the requirement that I get, I mean that I for my LMIAs, like I don't need English, I don't need any experience, I don't need, you know what I mean. And when they get a rejection letter, like I totally understand when you mean like it might be something on their side, right? That doesn't meet that requirement. But when you see that on my job description, there is really no requirement, and then the rejection is like they're not established in their country of residence. Like that doesn't really make, you get what I'm trying to say? It's like those rejections don't really make sense. Like if they're established, why would they come here? Like would you go to Africa and work for $4 a day? You get what I mean? People usually come here for a better future, right? And
Yeah.
then so that's why I asked that question. It's like and then they say that like like some of the refusal, it's like like it has to do with employer side saying that the offer is not genuine. So you see what I mean? I'm like, it doesn't make sense because all the staff that I brought over are still working for me. They haven't left. They've been going there, all right?
Mm-hmm.
You get what, like
So
if they didn't hit the qualification, I totally understand. Like if I was asking for 2 years experience, if I was asking for, you know what I mean, a lot of English, if I was asking for, then it made more sense. Yes, but if you're asking for nothing, basically because even because when I run my ads, because you have to consider Canadians and permanent residents, right, in the area, right? That means people with handicap, you know what I mean? People
mhm.
with so like I literally hire everyone that shows up to the interview, other than when they're high or drunk. You get what I'm trying to say? And
Yeah,
then
I think Selena, the one way that I can address, and I don't know because we don't work with the officers. We are just, well, not just, we're submitting an application and hoping we've done everything, covered everything for the officer to say yes. I think the piece I can address though, the piece for ties to your home country, everything that, unless you have already applied for permanent residency, ties to your home country is vitally important. And that is because the government wants to be sure that when your work permit ends, so whether it's a 12-month work permit or a 3-year work permit, they want to know that at the end of that work permit, your plan is to leave. And so if you are here temporarily, and this happens a lot with students as well, they are accepted to a school and all of that. And when we build a study plan, if they don't show that they've got all kinds of commitments back home, their study permit could be denied. And we have a lot of study permits that are being denied. And the whole reason is the government is ensuring that you are genuine in your goal to come to Canada and study and then return home. They have ways of course, of staying, but your sole purpose at the very beginning of your application is to return. So if you've received if you have received a refusal saying that there's no ties to home country, then that is the perspective they're taking. You're coming here temporarily, but your plan is to stay permanently, and that's not the goal of our immigration program. So I'm just guessing from the things that we've learned from our colleagues in the field, as well as some of the, the things that we've learned through doing the work. That would be the perspective they're taking. So we need to show that we really need to show then that this person is, at the end of 12 months, will go back to their home country.
But the issue then is it's the employer. So does the LMIA really do much? Because the whole purpose of the LMIA is to help the employers. Yes. Right?
Yes.
And now you
The
wait.
employer part is the LMIA. Yeah.
Yes, you're waiting 6 months to get a decline from the worker, and then another 6 months and then another decline. I'm just giving you an example because that's what basically happened to me right now, right? And within 1 week I get 3 declined, and I'm like, I don't get it, and then so now it's like, do you choose another and then wait another 6 months? You know what I mean? So what and like how is that going to really help the employers in any way, since we don't really get to choose?
Yes, you're definitely being impacted, but it is definitely a twofold. You have your labor market impact assessment that says, yes, your business needs can go ahead and hire international individuals because you have these vacancies that have been ongoing and stressing your business. But on the other part, the person that you're going to hire needs to show that they're going to leave the country when they are supposed to. So I think you need to kind of maybe figure out, if you've been doing these applications, maybe figure out how you're going to have the individuals that you're hiring show that. Now that you know why they've been denied, okay, let's talk about how we're going to address that when you do your application, because these are two separate things. The government is still saying you need people, but they're saying that this person isn't the right choice because that person may not leave Canada when they're done working. So they're looking at it from two completely separate lenses, and they come from two separate bodies. Service Canada gives you your LMIA. IRCC, Immigration, Refugee, Citizenship Canada, looks at the individuals that are going to be coming in and do they meet the test? And what you want are the people that you're going to hire to meet your test.
I just want to interject for a second. I'm sorry. I do want to time keep for the meeting and just thank everybody for coming. I think there are a lot more great discussions to be had on this topic. And just a reminder, I'll encourage everyone to reach out to Gemma individually to have these discussions and how she can support you on this path. But if there's no other questions right now, I just want to thank you, Gemma, so much for your time today. That was really great. I think everybody needed this. So thank you again, everyone, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Amanda and team.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.